Xianxia continued to stay in the secret room to refine pills. He had only came out after refining the spirit soul Shengyuan Holy Dan. He had already completed what Feng Yujie had given him earlier without any pressure. It had become much easier to refine pills. When he had previously refined Dragon Blood Saint Dan with spiritual lights, Xianxia had accumulated a very rich amount of experience in this area. Furthermore, the Lingguangdan he refined was also much better than the other alchemists. The amount of strength required to produce the pellet was also very considerable, and his speed was even faster than other alchemists. Right now, when refining the Shengyuan Holy Dan, the methods required were the same. Since Xianxia could handle the Dragon Blood Saint Dan well, there was no difficulty in facing the Shengyuan Holy Dan at all. He only used 3 days to successfully refine a Shengyuan Holy Dan that was emitting a light blue light. It won't be difficult for me at all. Xianxia looked at the Lingguang Dan in his palm, laughed proudly, and walked out of the secret room. Long Shui and LV Chilian were chatting in the hall, and in the meantime, LV Chilian had passed down the alive slain method to Long Shui. Seeing Xianxia smile, LV Chilian asked, "Seems like you've gotten a lot. How many Shengyuan Holy Danes have you refined?" Xianxia threw a storage bag over and smiled. "See for yourself. If I tell you, you might not believe me." Although LV Chilian was mentally prepared, after he took out a jade box from the storage bag, he opened it and saw many light blue pellets. These were all Shengyuan Holy Danes. 100 Shengyuan Holy Dan were piled up together, emitting a light as beautiful as blue flames. "You finished it so quickly. How did you do it?" Long Shui carefully counted. 100 Shengyuan Holy Dan pills, no more no less. This is the method I just comprehended from the heavenly alchemy. Its name is the original source refining. It's amazing." Xianxia laughed, and then he took out another blue-colored pill that was wrapped in a barrier of light. This was also a Shengyuan Holy Dan, but it was currently emitting a pill light. LV Chilian and Long Shui stared blankly at the Shengyuan Holy Dan that was greatly energized by the light. They were already surprised that Xianxia was able to refine 100 Shengyuan Holy Danes in a short period of time. But other than that, Xianxia had also successfully refined a Shengyuan Holy Dan that possessed a light aura. "I'll inform Sister Feng to come and take away these Shengyuan Holy Dan. This way, you can get the other Shangpin Holy Dan recipes as soon as possible." LV Chilian was also very happy. This Shengyuan Holy Dan was Feng Yujie's signature Shangpin Holy Dan. Therefore, she wanted Feng Yujie to give the other type of Shangpin Holy Dan to Xianxia. After LV Chilian left, he leaned against the chair, closed his eyes and said, "I might be able to create a pill formula right now. I plan to merge the Dragon Blood Saint Dan and the Shengyuan Holy Dan together." Long Shui said, "Dragon Blood Saint Danes can increase the strength of bones and blood, while Shengyuan Holy Danes can increase their strength by leaps and bounds within 2 hours. There's a huge difference in speciality between them." Xianxia opened his eyes and took out a Dragon Blood Saint Dan. He said, "Shengyuan Holy Danes can only increase the strength of one's divine power, and adding in the Dragon Blood Saint Dan, maybe it can even increase the strength of one's physical body. Within 2 hours, if both his physical body and divine power increased by several times, then this pill would be even easier to sell. Then hurry up and give it a try." Long Shui laughed. "Wait until Feng Yujie arrives. Let her see how powerful you are." Just as Xianxia came out, he had this thought and immediately went into the secret room to refine pills. He found out from Feng Yujie that during the process of refining the divine pellet, he needed to add the finished product as the material for the divine pellet. In other words, while refining Shangpin Holy Dan, it was possible to use this method. However, the prerequisite was that a pill formula was necessary to fuse the two. Xianxia decided to use his spirit eyes on the Dragon Blood Saint Dan. If he could see the spirit blood that was hidden inside the Dragon Blood Saint Dan, then he could fuse the Dragon Blood Saint Dan with it. When LV Chilian returned, he did not see Xianxia. After asking Long Shui about it, he found out that Xianxia had gone back to refine pills, and even wanted to create a pill formula to refine a unique Shangpin Holy Dan. Sister Feng might not come so soon. Her situation should be much better now. At least she won't be watched by the highest devil god to death. LV Chilean had only left a secret note that he would come here if Feng Yujie saw him. The next morning, Feng Yujie came back. This time, she didn't come as last time as she was very energetic, but she was still being monitored. Is there something urgent you need from me? When Feng Yujie came in, he did not see Xianxia, so he laughed. Is that little brat still concocting pills? LV Chilean laughed. He is concocting pills, it's just that he is refining his own pills. He has already completed the work you gave him. As she said that, she gave the box of Shenyuan Holy Dan S refined by Xiang to Feng Yujie. 100 Shenyuan Holy Dan would only need 2 months to refine. Even if it was her, it would still take nearly 3 months to refine them without sleep every night. How did he do it? Feng Yujie looked at the big door of the secret room, wanting to grab Xianxia who was inside and ask him about it, because this method of training was simply too heaven-defying. Long Shui laughed tenderly. This can't be considered strong. This is the most shocking part about that little scoundrel. She tossed a spirit soul Shenyuan Holy Dan pill to Feng Yujie. When Feng Yujie saw the ray of blue light shooting towards her, her heart skipped a beat. She knew what that light meant, but she immediately denied that it was not spiritual light. LV Chilean smiled and said, he said that he had comprehended a method from the heavenly alchemy, which was why he was able to do it so smoothly. Feng Yujie took in a deep breath. If it was those holy pellets that did not require a medicinal formula before, she would not be surprised if Xianxia could quickly refine them like sweet potatoes. But this was only because they were restricted by the medicinal formula. For Xianxia to be able to refine 100 Shenyuan Holy Dan so quickly, it was obvious that he did not follow the steps in the recipe. Feng Yujie was very sure that there were still leftover of the 100 sets of Shenyuan Holy Dan medicine that she gave Xianxia. I really want to drag him out and ask him. Forget it, I'll ask him next time. I'll go back first. Feng Yujie also didn't want to disturb Xianxia. If Xianxia could create his own pill formulas, she would of course be happy for him. Sister Feng, can you give him another set of pill recipes? The best would be the rare ones. LV Chilean was thinking for Xianxia. Feng Yujie stuck out his tongue. Chilean, your relationship with this brat is getting better and better, as if you were his wife. I do have the pill formulas, but do you think his hidden potential will be stimulated if I give it to him? So, I think it's better to just let him think of a way. It'll be beneficial to himself. LV Chilean and Long Shui thought about it and felt that it made sense. Xianxia had already started to create his own pill formulas, but they did not know whether he would succeed or not. Feng Yujie waited for less than an hour, but Xianxia did not come out. Thus, she had no choice but to leave. She could not go out for long in order to not be discovered by the highest devil god. Xianxia only opened the door of the private room at night. LV Chilean and Long Shui were patiently waiting outside. Seeing Xianxia's tired state, they hurried over to help him. I'm fine. It's not like I can't walk. Xianxia laughed, although he said so, but with the two girls being so considerate, it made his heart feel warm. After Xianxia sat down, he drank a cup of the sweet and hot tea that LV Chilean gave him and asked, has Sister Feng come yet? He came this morning and has already left. Long Shui laughed. Your results have truly frightened her to death. LV Chilean said, I've asked around. This Shenyuan Holy Dan can be sold for 150,000 divine money, and it's a relatively low price, even more popular than the Heaven Holy Dan sold by the son of a god, Li Zhonghan. It's just that they are rarely sold on the market. However, that Dan god knows that only Sister Feng knows how to refine pills, so once you sell this pill, it will expose your relationship with her. Xianxia smiled lightly. If I were to sell Wild Dragon Saint Dan, then there won't be a problem. Long Shui said in surprise, Wild Dragon Saint Dan? You just created it. Xianxia smiled and nodded. Shangpin Holy Danes that can simultaneously raise the strength and divine power of their physical body by several times have an additional effect, so I think that even if they are sold for 200,000 gold coins, there will still be people who want it. LV Chilean did not expect Xianxia to finish it so quickly, and to create an innovative pill formula was extremely difficult in her eyes. At least 10 years, or even tens of thousands of years, it was nothing out of the ordinary. Yet Xianxia had completed it in one day, and was actually doing it so easily in Xianxia's eyes. Xianxia took out a light blue pill. On top of the pill was a dragon carved from a red spirit grain. It looked to be of a very high grade. Qilian, do you think that it would be more worthwhile if we just directly buy the ingredients for the blood ginseng and us to duplicate them? Xianxia asked. We currently have too little divine money, we should earn more to settle down. At least let's talk about the grandeur of the house. LV Qilian thought for a moment, then said, if it was the past, then of course it would be more worthwhile to directly purchase them. But now, the price of the medicinal ingredients are increasing every day, and it is becoming less and less. I have already heard that there are more than 10 divine pills competing, and just 5 years later, when they compete to refine divine pellets, they will need a lot of different types of divine pellets as supplementary materials, so in these 5 years, whether it is the medicinal ingredients or the divine pellets, they will all increase. Xianxia nodded. To refine a divine pellet, it requires a lot of support. I didn't have any concept of that before, but after this time I have some understanding of it, and this is to make up for the lack of materials for the god level, so I need to use a sacred pellet to make up for it. I still have 60 sets of Shengyuan Holy Dan's medicinal herbs. Qilian, you copy 60 blood ginseng's medicinal herbs first. Xianxia said, I am preparing to refine a lot of wild dragon Saint Dan. Now is the perfect time. It was simply too easy to replicate a blood ginseng. The spirit liquid that LV Qilian and Long Shui had condensed in the past few days was enough. They didn't need to use those purple spirit pearls at all. LV Qilian herself also had blood ginseng, which was what Xianxia had given her back then. She and Long Shui had immediately carried it out. I need some time to refine this wild dragon Saint Dan. During this time you should go and see where it is selling, and if the price is too expensive you should all sell these 2 spirit Shengyuan Holy Dan. You should be careful when selling them. It would be best to go somewhere else. After Xianxia finished explaining the situation, he entered the secret room to refine pills. Back then, LV Qilian was in charge of the Hundreds of Flowers Palace and was very experienced with such matters. Even if Xianxia didn't remind her, she knew what she should do. Father, even though I am able to refine a spirit soul dragon blood Saint Dan, I am unable to reach this level. This Xianxia is indeed a rare pill genius. Yiqin came out of the pill refining room, looked at the dragon blood Saint Dan he had just refined and sighed softly. Although the dragon blood Saint Dan that she had refined also possessed a spirit light, the spirit light that it emitted was slightly weaker than the one that Xianxia had refined. Although it was only a little, Yiqin had refined more than 10 batches, but still could not reach Xianxia's level. Qiner, your strength is already very high, you are on par with the multicolored light, and are on par with many famous Dan Saint title. As for Xianxia, he is a different species, you don't need to compare him with you, he has the heavenly alchemy. Dan God Yi lovingly patted Yiqin's head. The Dan God Yi had sharp eyebrows and a handsome face. He looked very young, and he was currently in Divine Female Palace. Yiqin pursed his lips and said, but I can't accept this, I've been learning alchemy with my father for many years already. But Xianxia doesn't have any pointers from the pill god, and he also cultivates his own heavenly alchemy, so he hasn't been in the path of alchemy for as long as I have. He has to hide and avoid all the Hell Devil Emperoress for all these years. Dan Godyi laughed. You will surpass him sooner or later because he doesn't have a pill formula now, unless he can find a master. But now, no pill god dares to take him in as a disciple. Qiner, if you have the time right now, please help me refine some Shangpin Holy Danes. Although there are still 5 years left, I want to make sufficient preparations. When the 10 great pill gods meet up, they will definitely compete. Just as Dan Godyi finished speaking, Yiqin stuck out his tongue lightly and pouted. No, since you have so many disciples, just let them refine it. I want to learn how to refine divine pellets. Little girl, you even dare to refuse Daddy's request. Dan Godyi laughed and scolded him. That Fengshen's son has really troubled me. As long as I can concoct a divine pill, I'll see if he still dares to pester me. Yiqin laughed lightly. Father, don't be so harsh on me. I must let this fellow, Li Zhonghan, see just how powerful I am. The Dan Godyi determined that Xianxia did not have the pill formulas, so it was difficult for him to improve. But right now, Xianxia could already improve based on the methods of others, and create a better and more useful Shangpin Holy Dan. In just over 10 days, Xianxia, who had been able to steadily refine 4 batches of pellets every day, had already refined all 60 batches of pellets. Every furnace would produce 4 pellets, and in total, there would be 240 pellets of Wild Dragon Saint Dan. I'll sell it for 200 pills, keep 40 of them. 200,000 for 1 pill, that would be 40 million gold coins. Xianxia was a little excited just thinking about it. Right now, he still wanted to help Feng Yujie refine pills because this way he would be able to get a large amount of Shangpin Holy Dan faster. This was much faster than him and LV Chilian copying the Shangpin Holy Dan with the spirit pearls. Xianxia came out of the secret room, went to take a bath, and lied on the bed in the courtyard to bask in the sun while waiting for LV Chilian and Long Shui to return. LV Chilian and Long Shui would go out every day to find out the latest market conditions for the medicinal pellets, so that they could find a good method to sell the Wild Dragon Saint Dan at the fastest speed. Xianxia didn't have to wait long before they returned. Seeing that Xianxia was bathing in the sun and was in an extremely good mood, the 2 girls knew that Xianxia had succeeded and had already refined many Wild Dragon Saint Danis. I have refined 240 pills in total, but I only intend to sell 200 pills. Xianxia laughed. Now I have to test the effects of the Wild Dragon Saint Dan. Although I can successfully refine it, I have yet to eat it. As he said that, he took one and the effects of the pill quickly came into effect. Even though he was an inferior true god, his physical body and divine power were already very strong, but he could still feel that they had more than doubled in strength. Sister Chilian, try it. Xianxia handed a Wild Dragon Saint Dan over to LV Chilian. LV Chilian was a true god, but his physical body wasn't as powerful as. After LV Chilian ate it, his face was filled with astonishment. Clearly, he was feeling just how great the power this Wild Dragon Saint Dan brought was. LV Chilian took a deep breath and said, "It has been strengthened by about 6 times. If it's the upper true god, it should be 5 times. Because Xianxia was strong in the first place, the increase in his strength was not that great, unless it was a Wild Dragon Saint Dan with spirit energy. It shouldn't be a problem to sell it for 200,000 yuan for 1 pill, right?" asked. Shengyuan Holy Dan had such a price, but they were famous for it, and his Wild Dragon Saint Dan had just been created. If it was not widely known, no one would believe the effects of the Wild Dragon Saint Dan. LV Chilian and Long Shui had thought of this problem before, but they already had a solution. "No problem," LV Chilian said with complete confidence. "We don't need to rent a shop, and we don't need to sell these pills to the shop. We can handle it ourselves." Long Shui laughed. "When the time comes, we will set up a stall. And your pills are so beautiful, how do you want to advertise then? Just leave it to us." When Xianxia saw that Long Shui and LV Chilian were both wearing their mysterious smiles, he knew that they had already prepared for it. "Take it out and sell it now." LV Chilian looked at the sky. It was still noon, so it was still early. Xianxia nodded his head, then followed them through the bustling streets, arriving at a market, specially reserved for stalls. The market was also very lively. There were a lot of people, there were many of them shouting and yelling, and the scene of people bargaining and bargaining till their faces turned red could be seen everywhere. When he came over, Xianxia took a look around. The market was right beside a bustling street, and on both sides of the street, there were powerful shops. Amongst them was the Divine Han shop, which was also the shop opened by the son of the god. Setting up a stall in the market also required a lot of money, but Long Shui and LV Chilian had already rented it. When they arrived at the place, they took out a few banners that said, "Wild Dragon Saint Dan's Medicine." Xianxia watched on the side, because LV Chilian and Long Shui did not plan for him to interfere. He had initially thought that this would not work, but who knew that not long after the 2 girls came out of the stall, many people came over. Then, he discovered that all these people had a piece of paper in their hands, which described the effects of the Wild Dragon Saint Dan in detail. It was obvious that Long Shui and LV Chilian had left long ago. LV Chilian took out a rectangular transparent crystal chest and placed the 200 Wild Dragon Saint Dan S inside. This was more than 200 of them, Even some of the larger pill stores would find it hard to guarantee that there were so many of them. The light blue wild dragon Saint Dan looked like a Xianxia Holy Dan, but it was not hard to find. On the smooth surface of the pill was a small red dragon carved with clear carvings. LV Chilian and Long Shui had already spread the news everywhere over the past few days, so whenever they set up a stall now, most people who passed by would come over to take a look. This kind of high-quality pill was usually placed in those shops, and they were all tightly held in a small jade bottle by the shopkeeper. Now that it could be seen from the stall, many people were suspicious and thought that this was not a real Shangpin Holy Dan. "Little miss, is this really a Shangpin Holy Dan that was refined by a pill saint? Is there any proof? Your background is unknown. I don't dare to buy it." An old man brought his eyes close to the crystal chest and looked at the wild dragon Saint Dan inside carefully. LV Chilian smiled. "As long as you eat it, its effects are obvious, but this type of pill is usually consumed when you need it. Of course, we cannot let you buy it and immediately eat it for inspection, so we have decided, as long as the top 10 customers who buy this wild dragon Saint Dan, we will gift each one to you." Just as he finished speaking, the old man shouted, "I want to buy one." This old man's attire was very ordinary, but looking at how refreshed he was, he should be relatively wealthy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have casually bought a pill worth $200,000. Other people still did not dare to buy it because the wild dragon Saint Dan's origin was unknown, but the old man was not afraid because he had his own strength, and if someone dared to sell fake goods here, they would not leave the city. LV Chilian took the old man's divine money and opened the crystal chest. The pill fragrance instantly gushed out like a gust of light breeze, causing everyone's nose to tremble. The dense pill fragrance was able to cause everyone to tremble. There were a few weaker people here, but they had never eaten a Shangpin Holy Dan before, so they secretly believed that they were really selling them. Long Shui took out 2 pills and handed it over to the old man with a sweet smile. After the old man received it, he said, "If you dare to sell fake items, don't blame me for being impolite." LV Chilian smiled and said, "Old senior, don't worry, we will definitely not lie." After the old man consumed 1 pellet, his face changed and he revealed a look of surprise and joy. After that, he praised, "What a good pellet. It is much better than that Xianxia Holy Dan. I want another 10 pills." The old man quickly took out the divine money and bought another 10 pills. This time he didn't give them to him and he left very quickly as well, because he had to try them out before the effects of the medicine disappeared. He got 2 million in one go, and it was sold pretty quickly. Although the old man verified that it was a genuine Shangpin Holy Dan, no one continued to buy it. The detailed introduction of the wild dragon Saint Dan was written on a sign beside the stall. It seemed to have the same effect as the Xianxia Holy Dan, but it had one more effect than the Xianxia Holy Dan, which was to increase the strength of the Xianxia Holy Dan's body. Goddess City was currently gathering a lot of pill saints because the Dan Godyi was here, and many of them came to see if they could have the chance to interact with the Dan Godyi. At this time, a type of Shangpin Holy Dan that they had never heard of appeared, and it also attracted the interest of the group of pill saints. Xianxia didn't know what kind of advertisement LV Chilian and Long Shui had made to actually attract the pill masters he saw in the shops of the divine female palace. Even the Rosy Clouds Dan Saint came to join in the fun. Other than them, there was also the surprising daughter of the Dan god Yi Qin. Chun Xiang hid at the side and watched. LV Chilian and Long Shui had instructed him not to join them. LV Chilian and Long Shui had already changed their appearances, and although they looked like 2 girls with decent appearances and did not attract too much attention, they had still successfully attracted many people over. They were both pill masters with impressive strength, able to refine Shangpin Holy Danes. At this moment, they saw with their own eyes that the wild dragon Saint Dan was a little shocking, too. Based on their many years of experience, they could immediately tell that it was very similar to the Xianxia Holy Dan, but there was a dragon carved on top of the spirit grain. There were also some pill saints who thought of carving the patterns on top of sacred pills, but very few of them succeeded, so even if they succeeded, they wouldn't have much use for it. Furthermore, the reason why Chun Xiang carved the spirit grain was only to restrict it, allowing it to integrate more perfectly with other medicinal ingredients. "We'll take one each." Yi Qin gave LV Chilian a storage bag that had God's money inside. LV Chilean counted and got Long Shui to take out 4 wild dragons Saint-Des. You guys are the top 10 customers, so you guys bought one for me. Long Shui smiled sweetly and gave them 4 wild dragons Saint Dan. Soon after, the other pill saints also took out their divine money to buy it. As long as they quickly bought one, they would get one free. With this, the top 10 spots had already been snatched. Yichin and the Rosy Clouds Dan Saint also ate the gift and used it to test the effects. After eating it, they revealed expressions of shock, and then looked at each other and nodded. They were all super profound God. But after eating the wild dragon Saint Dan, they could clearly feel their bodies and divine power increasing. Although it wasn't double, but this increase was already considered good for them, because if they wanted to increase their strength now, they could only become gods. If a middle profound god were to eat it, their strength would increase by 1-fold. This kind of pill was much better than Xianxia Holy Danes, but the price was the same as Xianxia Holy Danes. How many pills do you have left? We'll take them all. After sensing the effects, Yichin immediately made a decision to buy them all. Seeing LV Chilean and Long Shui hesitating, Yichin swept his gaze over the crystal chest. There were about 200 pills and said, 40 million, sell them all to us. How about it? Unexpectedly, LV Chilean said, this sister, we would also like to sell it to you. However, the purpose of our sale is to sell the sacred pill, so that more people can experience the miraculous effects of this pill. So we can only sell 50 of them to you. The woman of the pill god had already said that she wanted to buy it all, which was enough to prove whether the wild dragon Saint Dan was a good pill or not. It could be said that the promotional effect had already been achieved, but LV Chilean wanted a good reputation, and at the same time wanted more people to experience the strong effects of the wild dragon Saint Dan. 50 pills is 50 pills. Yichin was in charge of the shop, and he knew that LV Chilean's goal in doing so was to make the wild dragon Saint Dan famous. Excuse me, but may I ask which senior alchemist concocted it? Yichin couldn't really tell which great pill refiner refined it, because at this time the pill god would only store the best Xianxia Holy Dan, so that in the pill god tournament 5 years later he wouldn't sell such a pill. It's inconvenient to inform you about this. Senior has already instructed me to do so. LV Chilean smiled faintly. Was the daughter of the pill god. This kind of divine money was nothing to her. Moreover, she had bought it on behalf of the divine female palace, so she could easily take it out. After Yichin and the Rosy Clouds Dan Saint left, the rest of the people swarmed over. One by one, they took out their divine money to buy the wild dragon Saint Dan, and the remaining wild dragons Saint Dan were sold out very quickly. Chun Xiang watched from the side and praised LV Chilean and Long Shui in his heart. They sold out of the wild dragon Saint Dan so quickly. After closing up the stall, LV Chilean and Long Shui returned to their residence with extreme caution. On the way, they discovered that there were people following them, but they quickly got rid of them. Inside the divine female palace, Dan God Yi, Rosy Clouds Dan Saint, Yichin and Feng Yujie sat together, looking at the wild dragon Saint Dan on the table. These are Xianxia Holy Danes, but they have added a few other herbs so they can increase the strength of the body. As for what they added, no matter how I look, I can't find it. Dan God Yi looked at the shattered wild dragon Saint Dan in his palm, and said with a frown. Yichin said, Daddy, how is this person's pill refining level? This looks to be about the same as the Xianxia Holy Dan that Sister Yujie refined. Dan God Yi ate the wild dragon Saint Dan that was crushed and carefully savored it, then said, normally, high-quality pills are hard to differentiate between good and bad, but I can still see that this is a little higher than Yujie's pill by a little. This alchemist standard is very high. Feng Yujie already had the answer in her heart. She had heard from the Rosy Clouds Dan Saint and Yichin that the pill sellers were 2 girls, and it was very obvious that they were Long Shui and LV Chilean. She also knew that Chun Xiang was going to improve this Xianxia Holy Dan previously, but she never thought that Chun Xiang would complete it so quickly. It was just that she was denied by the Dan God Yi because the Dan God Yi was very sure that there were no blood ginsengs. It was because the blood ginseng could not even fuse with the Xianxia Holy Dan's medicinal ingredients, and there would be many conflicts between them. The Dan God Yi shook his head. Could this alchemist be creating a pill formula? But he shouldn't have refined so many of them to sell? Could it be that he really lacks money? The god of pills did not lack money. Feng Yujie said, if they still continue to sell this wild dragon Saint Dan, it's very obvious. The pill refiner behind them is very short on money. Right now, she wanted to ask Xianxia and the others how exactly to refine this wild dragon Saint Dan. She also wanted to learn. Had already tasted the sweetness of refining wild dragon Saint Dan and was able to reap so much wealth in a short period of time. Xianxia said, are we still refining the wild dragon Saint Dan? We don't have any more medicinal ingredients, we need to duplicate them. If we were to go and buy them, we might not be able to do so. Long Shui was thinking about what he should buy with the divine money. LV Chilian said, we'll talk about it after a while. This 40 million is enough for us to buy a good shop. I've been watching it for a long time. Right now, Xianxia only wanted to quickly concoct a divine pill, and only then would he have enough strength to participate in the Supreme Divine Palace's trial within 10 years. LV Chilian said, the wild dragon Saint Dan has just been sold, and its reputation will spread very quickly. As long as we wait patiently for a while, we can let many people know, and at that time, if we sell again, we can raise the price. Xianxia asked, Sister Chilian, when you buy the shop, help me buy a few more famous Shangpin Holy Dan. I want to see if I can find the pill formula from the completed holy elixir. Alright, I'll do it now. It won't be long before we move into that new store as well. LV Chilian planned to lay her foundation in the goddess city. With Xianxia's help, she would be able to get started easily. LV Chilian and Long Shui left the room. Xianxia returned to the secret room and practiced the 7 devil-slain kung fu that he had mastered once. After finishing his practice, he waited in the hall for the 2 girls to return. When it was dark, Long Shui came back and laughed. Sister Chilian has already bought a shop. I will bring you there now. Divine cities in God's realm rarely sold their shops, yet LV Chilian was able to purchase them so quickly, which made him admire LV Chilian's speed in handling affairs. The shop was very big. There were a total of 7 stores, each of them extremely spacious. There were a total of 7 floors, made of stone, and every floor was protected by a divine formation. LV Chilian was currently on the 7th floor, and the divine formation on this floor was also the strongest. LV Chilian had already set up her room. It was extremely spacious and the fragrant bed was also very big. These are Heaven Holy Danes, 10 each. LV Chilian gave Xianxia 2 jade boxes. After Xianxia received it, he laughed. Sister Chilian, it's really you. You managed to settle so many things in one day. LV Chilian smiled lightly. Divine money is naturally easy. This is all thanks to you. Without you concocting pills, it would be difficult to earn that much in a short period of time. The power that Xianxia had displayed caused LV Chilian to be extremely satisfied and proud. She kissed lips and gently said, You've cultivated? Aren't you tired? Wash and sleep. After saying that, LV Chilian took off her clothes, quickly revealing her mesmerizing and beautiful jade body, and slowly walked towards the hot bath. She had other reasons why Long Shui was willing to enter Xianxia's ring, so she could only avoid it. Xianxia snickered, instantly took off his clothes, and pounced towards LV Chilian. After the sun rose, LV Chilian, who was completely sparkling and translucent like jade, was hugged onto one arm as she struggled out of Xianxia's embrace. She took out a jade box and saw that there were a lot of purple beads inside. And these were all spirit pearls condensed from the alive slain method that she and Xianxia had cultivated together. Recalling the joy he brought with his cultivation with Xianxia, LV Chilian could not help but let out a sweet smile, his face becoming flushed red. He turned to look at Xianxia, who still had a naughty smile on his face, then donned his clothes and did not wake Xianxia up. Long Shui also ran out from the ring and left the room with LV Chilian. Shui, take this divine money. We will separate these great divine cities later and leave a secret note for them to use in contacting their sisters. LV Chilian handed over a divine coin to Long Shui. Although this divine money was brought over simply, she did not spend it carelessly, as it was used on the right path. In order to manage a shop, There were not enough people, and LV Chilean could not always let Xianxia refine pills. So she only planned to find another woman first, and only open this shop when there were more people around. After Xianxia woke up and was unable to find LV Chilean and Long Shui, he could only enter a quiet room and take out the Shangpin Holy Dan he had asked LV Chilean to buy. Heaven Holy Danes can strengthen their divine power and unearth the potential of their divine power. That's why it's much easier to sell them. After Xianxia ate one pellet, he immediately had a very weak feeling. The divine power had indeed increased, but it was only by a little bit. He felt that he would need to eat more. Maybe it was because his own divine power no longer had any potential to develop. Chong Profound Dan, this is one of the 4 great sacred pills. It said that one pellet is worth 350,000 gold coins, so right now, it should be even more expensive. Chun Xiang looked at the Chong Profound Dan and carefully probed its interior with his divine power. Therefore, it was called a Chong Profound Dan. After eating it, it would be able to continuously stimulate the divine power in one's body, causing the divine power within to circulate miraculously, allowing one's divine soul to receive a type of nourishing profound energy, thereby allowing the interior of the divine soul to cultivate up to the mysterious power. The mysterious power was one of the most obvious features of the profound God, and was the power that came from the evolution of one's innate ability. I have yet to reach profound God. I wonder if it will be effective after I eat it. The reason why Chun Xiang consumed these pellets was mainly to search for the pellets formula from within, and then improve it. He would add other pellets to make these pellets even more perfect. After the Chong Profound Dan was refined, it instantly turned into a miraculous profound energy and rushed into his divine sense. It surrounded his divine soul, which had turned into a little person and started to nourish his divine soul. He also did not feel anything special about it. If you want to become a profound God, you need a large number of these Chong Profound Dan. Chun Xiang took out another Chong Profound Dan and placed it in the furnace, releasing the flames to burn. He then used his spirit essence. The quality of the Chong Profound Dan that he had chosen was rather poor. This was usually because it was not easy to fuse with, so it was the easiest to see what the origin was. Very quickly, he had gained something. He saw 7 source energy from the Chong Profound Dan. One of them was a little messy and blurry. He suspected that it was because he had added in a pill. The other 6 should have 3 high-tier medicinal herbs and 3 low-tier medicinal herbs. They have a lot of raw materials. Chun Xiang memorized the shape of the origin, and he still had to familiarize himself with a large number of sacred medicines before he could analyze what kind of ingredients were used. Next, he tried out the Heaven Holy Dan. He discovered that it only used 2 high-quality panacea and 1 low-quality panacea. It used very little raw materials, no wonder it was sold so cheaply. Heaven Holy Danes are able to excavate the potential of their divine power. If I add more, I can also excavate the potential of my fleshly body and strengthen my divine soul. Then I can definitely sell them better than Heaven Holy Danes. Chun Xiang's heart stirred. He had already decided what kind of divine medicine he would add. Who sold Heaven Holy Danes was the son of the divine aura, and Chun Xiang hated the divine aura, so he planned to fight over the business with the divine Han store. Although the divine Han shop was still rather far from here, if his pills were good, he could definitely take away the business of the divine Han store. After an idea came to Chun Xiang's mind, he walked out of the secret room and into the room. Hanging from the top of the room, he opened the door and saw a masked woman knocking on the door, calling out to the crystal ball. Through this crystal ball, he could send a sound transmission to the owner's room on the 7th floor, which was also the supporting equipment for the shop. Chun Xiang channeled his divine power into the crystal ball and heard a familiar voice. Is anyone here? Chun Xiang could see her every move clearly from the crystal ball. The lady was Feng Yujia, but she had changed her mask. With a thought, Chun Xiang opened the door from within the crystal ball. After Feng Yujia entered, he controlled the door to be closed. It was extremely convenient. I'm on the 7th floor. Chun Xiang sent a sound transmission to Feng Yujia, and then he went to the guest hall. Just as he was thinking to have LV Chilean practice, he did not expect Feng Yujia to actually find him here. Feng Yujia came up very quickly, and upon entering the hall, she immediately took off her mask. revealing a look of displeasure on her face. Feng Yujie pouted and said, "My goodness, you modified my Xingyuan Holy Dan, yet you still didn't tell me." Xianxia laughed. "Sister Feng, I was just looking for trouble with you? How did you find me here?" In order to make Feng Yujie happy, Xianxia hurriedly poured tea for her. "Someone just bought this shop. I checked and found out it was a woman. I knew it was you." Feng Yujie looked at the pretty good living room and said, "Although this shop is big, the location is still a lot worse. It's a pity that the divine formations and all kinds of facilities are here." Xianxia laughed. "It's all right. Since Sister Qilian has bought it, she will definitely have a way to manage it. Sister Feng, this time you are not worried about highest old devil." Feng Yujie scoffed. "That bastard was taken away by the Supreme Divine Palace. Fortunately, the 9 Divine Kings left me something in the past that I could contact the Supreme Divine Palace. Tell me honestly, how did you refine your wild dragon Saint Dan?" Xiang ran to the back of Feng Yujie and played with her smooth and beautiful long hair, laughing. "I just added dragon blood Saint Dan in and refined it, and also obtained a little bit of spirit grain, so I succeeded, but I used the method inside the heavenly alchemy to successfully refine it. Ordinary methods won't work. So if you want to learn, sister, you can only learn heavenly alchemy first. I'll be happy to teach it to you." Xiang was very generous to Feng Yujie because he wanted the younger 9 girls' supreme god bone and he felt guilty about it. But Feng Yujie was younger 9 girls' elder sister, so even though some things had happened before, they still had a deep sisterly relationship towards each other. "I'm too lazy to do so. The heavenly alchemy is so difficult. It's not that easy to learn." Feng Yujie pushed the hair on his back to the front and hung it over his chest, preventing Xiang from messing around there. Xiang placed both of his hands on Feng Yujie's shoulders and gently kneaded them, massaging her while laughing. "Sister Feng, you are now the 2nd palace master of Divine Female Palace. Can you lend me some god's money to spend? I'm really lacking right now." Feng Yujie leaned on the chair, enjoying the massage from Xiang, and quietly said, "I would like to, but I do not care about god's money, and I did not have much foundation since I have only come up recently, so I do not have much god's money. Even if I wanted to refine god's pill, I would have to buy some medicine. Where's Qilian and Shui?" Feng Yujie looked at the direction of the room and asked. "They're all out. I don't know where they're going." Xiang rubbed Feng Yujie's shoulder. Looking down, he saw Feng Yujie's proud chest. Even though it was separated by his clothes, he was still unwilling to shift his gaze. Feng Yujie purposely said fiercely, "Behave yourself, brat. You've earned so much divine money, and you still want to cheat me of my divine money. You really aren't worth it." Xiang suddenly said to Feng Yujie, "Elder sister, please calm your anger. I want to confirm you really aren't being watched by the highest old devil anymore." When Feng Yujie saw that Xiang had sent a sound transmission to her, secretly, he knew that Xiang had something important to tell her. "If the sound transmission is not accurate, then my divine soul will enter your divine sense C world. This will be absolutely safe." Feng Yujie replied, "All right." Immediately shouted, "Last time, a very wonderful thing happened precisely because LV Qilian's divine soul entered his divine sense C world." Looking at Xiang's excited expression, Feng Yujie seemed to have guessed something, and scolded, "Little bastard, are you thinking wrongly? Trying to do something to me in the divine sense C world? I'm not afraid of you." Xiang said in an aggrieved manner, "Of course not. I really have something important to tell you. Relax. I'll enter your divine sense C right now." Feng Yujie said as she opened her palm, only to see a bottle-sized beauty suddenly appearing in her palm. After Xiang saw this, he couldn't help but extend his hand out, wanting to use his fingers to soft that cute little face of hers. "Pa!" Feng Yujie immediately opened up his assailant and shouted, "Don't touch my divine soul." Following that, the divine soul in her palm flew up, transforming into a white light that shot into Xiang's chest, disappearing without a trace. As long as it was a true god, one's divine soul would be able to materialize, so Feng Yujie's divine soul was a mini version of Feng Yujie's just now. Feng Yujie had already appeared in Xiang's divine sense C. Xianxia's divine sense sea world looked like he was surrounded by a sea. The originally golden ocean of divine power had already turned blue. This is your divine sense sea world. It looks very ordinary. So it turns out you've always wanted to live like this. Feng Yujie looked around. Here, the sky was blue and white. The waves were accompanied by a cool sea breeze that caressed the beach. On an island, the mountains were clear and the water was beautiful. The forest was green and verdant, and the forest was filled with birds chirping. Multicolored, beautiful flowers were blooming, and the fragrance of flowers was everywhere. Feng Yujie flew over to the stone table and sat down. He was surrounded by a sea of flowers, and there were many butterflies dancing with the beautiful chirping of birds in the forest. Divine Sense Sea World reacts to what everyone desires the most in their heart. I never thought that what you desire the most is actually this. Feng Yujie was very surprised with this. She had originally thought that Xianxia was a person who had great ambition. But who knew that he would actually yearn for this kind of life, even though it looked pretty good? Xianxia shook his head and smiled. These ordinary and carefree days are what I desire the most. It's just that it's not easy to obtain. Right now, I simply cannot stop living like this. I do have a lot of goals, but this is probably the hardest one for me. So I constructed my divine sense sea world to be like this. Before, Feng Yujie had thought that she understood Xianxia a lot, but now that she saw his divine sense sea world, she knew that she did not truly understand him. I want to see your divine sense sea world. Xianxia laughed. But from the looks of it, you won't let me see it. Feng Yujie laughed tenderly. You can take a look if you want, but with your current divine soul, once you enter my divine sense sea world, you will definitely be bullied by me. Divine soul were too weak, and entering a divine sense sea world that was too strong was extremely dangerous. Just like the last time LV Chilian entered Xianxia's divine sense sea world, Xianxia could do whatever he wanted as long as he wanted. Hurry up and tell me. If you have anything important to say, tell me. Feng Yujie urged, but seeing that Xianxia did not immediately answer, with an appearance that he was pretending to be mysterious, Feng Yujie strongly pinched his face. It has to do with the younger 9 girl. The 6 realms mirrors is with me. Xianxia was still thinking about how to tell Feng Yujie earlier, so he needed to tidy up a bit. Now that Feng Yujie was pinching his face, it made him feel an endless amount of pain, which was why he roared out loud. Feng Yujie stood up abruptly and shouted in shock, "What, are you speaking the truth?" Xianxia nodded his head. "I'm not lying, I wanted to tell you before, but you were being watched by the highest old devil, and I was worried that I would leak out this matter, so I did not." "Then how is she now? Where is she?" Feng Yujie was extremely worried for the younger 9 girl. She was the first to ask about the younger 9 girl, not the 6 realms mirrors. She was sent to divine prison by Penalty Heavenly God. Penalty Heavenly God said that it would be the safest place for younger 9 girl, so she was told to temporarily hide inside. Xianxia said, "Why does highest devil God think that the 6 realms mirrors is with younger 9 girl? What happened?" Of course, Feng Yujie could guess that Xianxia would definitely be involved in this matter. Xianxia then explained everything that had happened, and then he spread out his hands and said, "This is what happened. Don't blame me for harming younger 9 girl. I also saved her back then, and helped her take her revenge." Snorted. The 6 realms mirrors was obtained by Xianxia, but the younger 9 girl had to take the blame for him. They had no choice but to hide in divine prison. I don't know what younger 9 girl owed you in her previous life, but her supreme god bone was with you, and the many years she searched for you were also taken away by you. In the end, she had to hide in divine prison, and yet you are here, living a carefree life. Feng Yujie said in an extremely displeased tone. Xianxia also felt a little guilty and laughed dryly. "Sister Feng, I will make it up to you in the future. Believe me, I have the ability. In fact, I'm not much better off now. I only have 10 years to go to Supreme Divine Palace to participate in the trial, so I'm rather busy right now." Feng Yujie didn't really blame Xianxia. At least she knew where the younger 9 girl was. Although the place they were at wasn't exactly right now, it was still very safe. "Did you drip your blood into that brand?" Feng Yujie said anxiously. Don't you know that if you don't pass this trial, there's a high chance that you'll die? I know, but I think I can do it, even though time is a bit tight. Chen Xiang was extremely confident in himself. Feng Yujie scoffed a little worriedly, stamping her feet on the ground. What do you think you can do? You're a fool. You're in such danger. Why didn't that old bastard devil-killing heavenly god stop you back then? They tried to stop me, but I still decided to try. Chen Xiang laughed. Sister Feng, don't worry. I won't waste 9 divine kings' supreme god bone. Was a little angry at the moment, but devil-killing heavenly god stopping her was akin to using her life as a joke. She immediately reached out and pinched Chen Xiang's face, causing him to scream out loud like a pig who was being butchered. Because Feng Yujie's divine soul was stronger than Chen Xiang's, it was especially painful when Chen Xiang's divine soul was pinched. Oh yeah. Don't tell Sister Qilian and the others about this. I don't seem to be worried about them. Chen Xiang said as he rubbed his aching face. Humph. Feng Yujie only snorted. She then extended her hand out, scaring Chen Xiang, causing him to jump up fiercely. But Feng Yujie still grabbed him and tapped his forehead with her jade finger. Her voice carried a trace of anger. This is the pill formula to concoct the divine pellet. Go and look for the ingredients yourself. The 2 divine pill formulas appeared in Chen Xiang's mind. It seemed to be related to raising his strength, which made him extremely happy. Thank you, Sister Feng. Chen Xiang smiled as he pounced over and hugged Feng Yujie, burying his head against her soft chest and rubbing it. Before long, Feng Yujie teleported to another place and scolded. Brat, trying to take advantage of me. Have you forgotten about the pain just now? Chen Xiang immediately said, I was just excited for a moment. Oh right, Sister Feng. Can you please pass some of your knowledge to me? Come here. Don't get too excited this time. Feng Yujie crooked his fingers at Chen Xiang. After Chen Xiang walked over, his face was strongly pinched by Feng Yujie again, causing him to be in so much pain that he did not dare to approach it. At the same time, a lot of knowledge related to medicinal ingredients appeared in his mind, helping him to decipher those pill formulas. I'm going back. If you need any help, come find me again. If you want to borrow God's money, then forget about it. Feng Yujie was very clear how terrifying the Supreme Divine Palace's trial was, so she tried her best to help Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang hurriedly nodded, then sent Feng Yujie downstairs. An hour later, LV Qilian and Long Shui returned as well. Sister Feng came by just now. She has broken away from the highest old devil. In the future, you can go and play with her at any time. When Chen Xiang mentioned Feng Yujie, he couldn't help but rub his face. Although his divine soul had been pinched, at this moment, he felt that his body was hurting as well. Really? That's great. Feng Yujie treated them very well. As long as they were not borrowing a large amount of divine money, Feng Yujie would generally be willing to help them. Where did you go? Chen Xiang asked. However, Sister Feng is no longer being watched by the highest old devil. We can ask her to look for the whereabouts of her sisters and see if we can gather them. LV Qilian said. Chen Xiang immediately became excited. That's great. I miss them a lot. Long Shui laughed. I guess you want to eat their tofu. LV Qilian and Long Shui, who had just returned, went out again in a hurry. She was going to look for Feng Yujie. Chen Xiang obtained knowledge about a lot of medicinal herbs from Feng Yujie and began to analyze the characteristics of the medicinal herbs based on their appearances, so as to fit the Heaven Holy Dan and the Spirit Blood. Soon, he had listed more than 20 items. Because he was not sure, he could only buy these herbs first. Then, he would use his source spirit eyes to look through them. After comparing them, he would be able to understand them clearly. When Chen Xiang listed out the names of the medicinal herbs, LV Qilian and Long Shui had already returned. Seeing that their beautiful faces were filled with smiles, Chen Xiang asked, What's the matter? Why are you smiling so happily? Long Shui said, Menger and Xianxia will be back very soon. It's a pity that Warm Moon and Jingjing met the Vermilion Bird, so they followed the Vermilion Bird and left. Otherwise, it would have been even more lively. Dongfang Xinyue and Dongfang Jing both had her bloodline in their bodies, so the Vermilion Bird was very good to them. The two of them had just arrived in the god's realm, so their strength was not strong. Help me look for these medicinal herbs. Right, is that enough money? Xianxia asked. The divine money was not in his hands. He did not know how much the two girls spent. There's still some more, it should be enough. LV Chilian took the paper, and without asking too much, he took Long Shui and left. Xianxia did not bother thinking about the divine pellet right now. Although he already had the recipe, refining it was not easy, and he needed a lot of ingredients, especially the completed divine pellets. He now understood why the group of divine pellets would need so many when competing with each other to concoct the divine pellet. The pills Feng Yujie had given him were all formulas from Shopping Dan S, but the final product of a holy pellet was extremely shocking, much less the high-grade divine pellets that the pill god had given him. Heaven Holy Dan can't add Dragon Blood Saint Dan in. Although Dragon Blood Saint Dan strengthened the body, the blood aura is too strong, and it might not match the medicine inside the Heaven Holy Dan, and it will affect the effect. Xianxia was currently thinking about how to improve the Heaven Holy Dan. Tyrant's Cloud Ear, this is a high-grade divine medicine, and it's a relatively mild medicine, but it's rather rare. After Xianxia carefully studied a large amount of divine medicine, he decided to add this kind of divine medicine. It was said that once a child of a few years old ate it, he would have the strength of 10,000 jin. Furthermore, as his body grew, the medicinal strength would constantly be released, forming a wooden ear, but it was jade white in color, mainly growing on the peaks that entered the clouds. Sometimes it would fly along with the clouds, jumping onto other mountains, so it was called the Tyrant Body Cloud Ear. As for the Chong Profound Dan, he had yet to decipher the recipe, and it was somewhat difficult because a pill was added within. If he was able to determine which types of ingredients the Chong Profound Dan was refined from, he would be able to roughly guess what kind of pill was added to it. LV Chilian and Long Shui returned in the evening. They had gone for so long, they must have been running around everywhere. We have finally found them all. Some of the stores don't even have anything, so we have no choice but to run to the other divine city. Long Shui took out a jade box and placed it in front of Xianxia. Xianxia smiled. Thank you for your hard work. You will recover after this period of time. LV Chilian nestled beside him and said gently, What do we care about this? You are the one who has the hardest time of all. Long Shui said softly. We have almost used up all of the divine money. The main thing is that we used the most to buy the Chong Profound Dan, 500,000 per pellet. We bought 10 pellets, and the quality is still not good. Xianxia laughed. Don't worry, we will have some divine money again soon. Let's wait for me to bring out the recipe for the Heaven Holy Dan. He first asked LV Chilian to copy one of the 20 types of holy medicines he had bought, then took out the pill furnace and placed each and every one of them into the furnace to be refined. His main purpose was to use his spirit essence to examine the spirit blood, to see if it could match the ones he had seen from the Heaven Holy Dan. Very quickly, he found the same bloodline shapes as the Heaven Holy Dan and inner spirit blood among the 20 different divine medicines. The Chong Profound Dan must have added the white profound holy pellet, which is worth around 50,000 gold coins. It's a mid-grade holy pellet, which can mainly produce weak, mysterious power. Xianxia already knew which 6 types of medicinal ingredients the Chong Profound Dan would use to refine it, so he could already tell what kind of sacred pill the Chong Profound Dan had added to make it. Xianxia asked, How much money do you have left? Do you still have enough to buy the Tyrant Body Clouds? LV Chilian took out a storage bag and said, I still have 500,000. That's enough to buy. Xianxia nodded his head. Go and buy it. We don't have much God's money now. We can only rely on duplicating the required medicinal herbs. With that, he laughed sinisterly, looked at LV Chilian, because he needed to dual cultivate to create the extremely powerful purple spirit pearl, causing LV Chilian to spew out information as he pulled Long Shui and left. The Heaven Holy Dan's medicinal herbs are already considered cheap, to actually be able to sell for 100,000 gold coins. My improved ones should be able to sell for 150,000 gold coins. The 2 Shangpin Holy Danes required a total of only 50,000 spirit stones. Although the congealed holy flower and the golden plum blossom bloodthorny grass are high-grade holy medicines, they are the cheaper ones, and adding the low-grade flowerless holy fruits, it would at most be 60,000 spirit stones. If it was the previous price, it would only be 30 to 20,000, and growing them yourself would be even cheaper. After Xianxia obtained the knowledge of the medicinal herbs that Feng Yujie had passed down to him, he understood all of this very well. At night, LV Qilian and Long Shui returned and bought the tyrant body cloud ear. When Xianxia took it over, he wanted to enter the secret room to refine pills, but after thinking about it, it was already nighttime, so he had to do what he needed to do at night. Moreover, he wanted to get more of those purple spirit pearls so that he could quickly copy a large amount of medicinal ingredients. Xianxia woke up and took 2 breaths of the remaining fragrance of his wonderful body. He hastily dressed, only to see LV Qilian using the purple spirit pearl to copy the medicinal ingredients. He had told LV Qilian last night how many medicinal ingredients he wanted to copy, and LV Qilian had started doing this very early. A purple spirit bead could turn a high-quality medicine into 4, but a copy of the low and middle-quality medicine would only need to be refined by them. The Heaven Holy Dan's medicinal ingredients are here. There are now 50 of them. LV Qilian pointed to a storage bag. Why are there so many? Xianxia was a little surprised. 1 purple pearl can produce 10 copies, which should be considered to be a middle-level divine medicine. The tyrant body cloud ear is more normal, and can only be changed to 4. In total, it used up half of my purple pearls. LV Qilian said. Xianxia chuckled. Don't worry. If we stay together for a few more days, we will have a lot of purple pearls. Long Shui curled his lips and said, Quickly refine the pill. Otherwise Big Sister Qilian would not let you give birth to the little pearl. I need enough divine money to collect the materials for the divine pill. I'd better not waste any more time right now and grab some time to get some divine money. Xianxia entered the secret room and started refining pills. In his opinion, Wild Dragon Saint Dan were much harder to refine than Heaven Holy Dan, so refining Heaven Holy Dan would definitely be very easy. Of course, the improved Heaven Holy Dan would be named as Body Dan. The first furnace took a relatively long time because he needed to solve the problem of fusing the tyrant body cloud ear and the other medicinal herbs. In the end, he could only use the method of carving a spirit grain to perfectly fuse them. If it was not perfect, the refined pill would allow him to see the spirit blood S inside, just like those Heaven Holy Dan S and Chong Profound Dan S that he had seen through with his spirit essence. Just as Xianxia had expected, when he used the original source refining, he was able to easily fuse the S and the Heaven Holy Dan's original medicinal ingredients together, and successfully formed 4 pellets. Body Dan, if the effect of this kind of pill is as I expected, then it can at least be sold for 150,000 gold coins, or even 200,000 gold coins. When Xianxia finished refining the pill, he took the 4 pellets and walked out of the secret room. Long Shui and LV Qilian were cultivating their alive slain method in their room, refining the spirit liquid. At the same time they were waiting for Xianxia to come out, because sometimes Xianxia needed them to do something. Hearing the sound of the secret room's stone door opening, LV Qilian and Long Shui immediately started cultivating, while Xianxia had already arrived beside the bed and passed over to Body Dan, smiling. This is called Body Dan. Let's see how its effect is. LV Qilian took it and looked at it carefully. This Body Dan looked like a milky white jade pearl. It did not have any light on its surface. Unlike how the Wild Dragon Saint Dan released beautiful blue light, LV Qilian swallowed the Body Dan, and immediately felt the medicinal power in her body quickly spreading out. She anxiously used the cultivation technique she was training in to guide the medicinal power to circulate in her body, fusing it with her flesh and blood. The Body Dan's medicinal power was split into 2 parts. One part was the divine sensi that rushed into her, causing the divine power in her divine sensi to change and increase by a little, while the other part was spread out evenly throughout her body following her cultivation technique, nourishing her muscles and bones, strengthening them somewhat. Not bad. Its effect is much better than the Heaven Holy Dan. After LV Qilian finished his cultivation, he opened his eyes with a satisfied smile on his face. I didn't expect that the higher-ups of the god power would be more powerful than the Heaven Holy Dan. After Long Shui ate it, she did not sense any great changes to her body. That was because her physical body was very strong to begin with, and her soul was also very special. Alright, then I will start the large-scale refining. You guys go and buy the white profound holy lotus. The white profound holy lotus is used to refine the white profound holy pellet. After I finish refining the body Dan, I need to start connecting the Chong profound Dan. Chun Xiang instructed as he rushed into the secret room and continued refining the body Dan. He had already successfully improved the Heaven Holy Dan and changed it to have an even better effect, allowing the body Dan to be successfully refined as well. The following Chong profound Dan also needed to be improved, and this was also the most difficult part, because the Chong profound Dan were already very complicated to refine and still needed to add a medium-grade white profound holy pellet. When Upper True God wanted to become a profound God, he could also transform it into a mysterious power based on his cultivation method and absorb the divine spirit energy. However, it would take a very long time before he could obtain enough mysterious power to break through into the next realm. If one ate a few Chong profound Dan, they would be able to greatly increase their speed, quickly acquire mysterious power, and then break through the bottleneck. Therefore, if Chun Xiang wanted to improve the Chong profound Dan now, he had to start from here and add the sacred medicine that could give birth to mysterious power S, allowing the Chong profound Dan to produce more mysterious power S. Chong profound Dan was one of the 4 great sacred pills, and only a few pill gods had this pill formula. Although some of these pill gods had already passed it down to their disciples, there were not many of these pills, and the effects of the Chong profound Dan were already very strong. Chun Xiang could directly create the Chong profound Dan, but he needed to prove his identity when selling it. If he could not tell them the origins of the Chong profound Dan's pill formula, then he would be deemed as stealing the pill formula. The consequences would be severe, and he would be punished by the pill gods who owned the formula. Of course, he could let these pill gods know that he had the ability to decipher the pill formulas, so he had to improve. What he refined were not Chong profound Dan S, but rather the effects of the Chong profound Dan S. If I add them again, I can only add the Jade Origin Sacred Fruit and the Profound Sky Sacred Leaf. These two are both relatively rare high-grade divine medicines, and they are also of the mild-mannered type. If I use the original source refining to refine them, I will definitely be able to fuse them into the Chong profound Dan S. Chun Xiang was a little worried, but he felt that if the effect was twice that of the Chong profound Dan, then there would definitely be people who would buy it, since there were not many Chong profound Dan left. This was not a good time for those who wanted to buy the holy elixir because the price would skyrocket in the Pill Gods tournament. However, there was nothing they could do about it. When they needed it, they could only buy it. For Alchemist who made money from refining pills, this was a good time because the pills in his hands could be sold at a very high price at this time. Therefore, Chun Xiang wanted to make a huge profit by refining the holy elixir at this stage. After the competition with the other pill gods over, the price of the holy elixir would drop again. Chun Xiang, who was in the midst of refining pills, had his soul float out and send a sound transmission to Long Shui and LV Chilian, telling them to use up their last bit of divine money just to buy the Jade Origin Holy Fruit and the Profound Sky Sacred Leaf. The Profound Sky Sacred Leaf can directly grow into a heavenly sacred tree. The leaves are all the same big, but the leaves are useful. When the time comes, I'll need a lot of spiritual beads to make this tree grow. Chun Xiang told LV Chilian all of these so that she could buy it and not copy it using the same method she did before, and so that its leaves could take root and grow into trees. The heavenly profound tree wouldn't grow very big. It could be grown indoors when it was fully matured, but it would take a long time for it to grow from a leaf to a tree. If the spiritual bead was used as fertilizer, it could quickly grow to maturity. Chun Xiang continued to refine Body Dan. If they had a shop, they wouldn't be able to sell only one type of pill, so he would have to refine a few good ones and make these holy pills famous. 10 days later, Chun Xiang finished refining all the ingredients. He had obtained a total of 200 Body Dan pills. He opened the stone door and walked out of the secret room, but saw 2 people that he had missed for many years. Xianxia and Xianxia were actually here. Chun Xiang was pleasantly surprised. When he came back from divine prison, he had not seen them, and it had been a long time since they had parted ways with Chun Xiang. It was because Chun Xiang had lost 5,000 years of time, and they had not. Xianxia was still as charming as before, and her entire body emitted an enchanting aura which could captivate one's soul. Yet despite being together with Xianxia for so many years, she was still able to maintain that kind of elegant and simple temperament, which was completely different from Xianxia's. The two of them wore light purple cheongsam, and although they had smiles on their faces, their beautiful eyes were filled with tears. Xianxia immediately dashed over and hugged the two girls tightly. He breathed in the familiar scent of their bodies and tightly hugged onto their soft and warm bodies, conveying the yearning he had for them from the depths of his heart. Xianxia and the two girls embraced each other for a while. Then, they heard Hua Xiangyue's coquettish voice sound out, "All right, little scoundrel. There's still something important to say." It was only then that Xianxia saw that LV Qilian and Long Shui were also here. It must be because of the memory that they had left behind that had helped, allowing them to find Hua Xiangyue and Wu Qianqian. "What's the matter?" Xianxia could not bear to let them go. Hua Xiangyue and Wu Qianqian both held onto Xianxia's arms, pulling him to a chair for him to sit down. They also knew how hard it was for Xianxia to refine pills. After Xianxia sat down, Hua Xiangyue and Wu Qianqian also sat opposite to him. It was only now that Xianxia realized that Flower Fragrance and Wu Qianqian both had the strength of gods, which was pretty good, at least a little higher than his cultivation. Hua Xiangyue saw that Xianxia's eyes were staring at her and laughed. "When we came to the gods' realm, we went to look for the Dan Emperor, and we received his inheritance. Who knows?" Then she sighed softly, a trace of sadness on her face. "I didn't know that he had already died. I didn't expect that after that generation of Dan Emperor, he would end up like this after coming to the gods' realm." Wu Qianqian said with a depressed mood. "He can be considered our master. We received his inheritance, and it will be of great help to us in the area of alchemy." Xianxia respected the Dan Emperor very much from the bottom of his heart. He did not expect that after the Dan Emperor came to the gods' realm, he would actually die. Hua Xiangyue's voice was filled with anger as he said, "He was once enslaved by Fengshen for a period of time to refine pills." Xianxia clenched his fist tightly. This actually had something to do with Fengshen. The ice dragon was now being enslaved by the god of fortune, and this was also the fate of the Dan Emperor. Wu Qianqian, who looked very relaxed at first, said indignantly, "Senior Dan Emperor, because he wanted to save the ice dragon. The god of fortune caught him and gave him a reward. In the end, to die tragically at the hands of a god is to be tortured to death." Long Shui was even more furious. Dan Emperor had a good relationship with her before because the consequences of saving the ice dragon were so tragic that she wished to immediately rush to Wealth Divine Palace to save him. Xianxia took a deep breath. "I will definitely save the ice dragon and help Dan Emperor take revenge." LV Qilian said, "Fengshen's son is here. This guy is also selling pills at the medicine store. This guy is also not a good person." Xianxia nodded her head. "At that time, I will ruthlessly suppress his shop so that he won't be able to sell even a single pill." Hua Xiangyue said softly, "It's been so long since we've met. We shouldn't be saying all this. Right, the Dan Emperor's inheritance is actually related to the heavenly alchemy. That's because of his comprehension of the heavenly alchemy, so Qianqian and I are also learning the heavenly alchemy." Wu Qianqian said, "Back then, Xianxia passed the god purification down to me. After I comprehended it myself and learned the Dan Emperor's heavenly alchemy, I improved even more." Xianxia was overjoyed and said, "This can't be the best. I am also a student of the heavenly alchemy. During this period of time, I will pass on my cultivation experience to you guys. Originally, Shui and I were going to buy the Heavenly Profound Sacred Leaves and the Jade Origin Sacred Fruit, but we ran into Qianqian and Xiangyue. They had these two medicinal ingredients, so we were left with a divine sum of money." After LV Qilian finished speaking, he looked at Xianxia with an ambiguous gaze and chuckled, "I've already passed the alive slain method to them." In these 10 days of Xianxia cultivating in seclusion, Hua Xiangyue and Wu Qianqian had already learned a lot of things about Xianxia from Long Shui's mouth, but they did not seem to know that the most powerful usage of alive slain method was merely dual cultivation. Xianxia secretly praised LV Qilian in his heart, as expected of his palace master. "Are both body Dan refined using the heavenly alchemy? What method do you need to refine the sacred pills for these pill recipes? You don't seem to follow the steps in the recipes to refine them." Wu Qianqian looked at the wild dragon Saint Dan that was given to her by LV Chilian. She only found out about the effects from LV Chilian's mouth and did not eat them. She also knew that Chun Xiang could refine 4 pills in a single furnace, which was quite shocking, because any pellet with a recipe could only be made in one furnace. After I comprehended the God purification, I also comprehended many types of refining methods from the heavenly alchemy. I will teach you all this one by one, but it's best if you use your soul to communicate. Chun Xiang said. LV Chilian taught them the alive slain method this way too, so they could understand now that it was equivalent to fusing memories. Qianqian, you go first. Although it looked like his smile was normal, both Hua Xiangyue and LV Chilian, who were familiar with him, knew what Chun Xiang was planning to do now. She had been together with Wu Qianqian for so many years, so she was very clear on just how deep Wu Qianqian's relationship with him was. However, she had only kissed him once. Yes. Wu Qianqian smiled and nodded. Then he walked over and held her hand as he walked in. Wu Qianqian and Chun Xiang met each other at the super martial school. At the beginning, there was a little conflict between the two, but at that time, the two never thought that they would come to the God's realm. They had experienced a lot in the past few years, especially Wu Qianqian. After Chun Xiang and Wu Qianqian entered the spacious room, he did not begin to pass down the heavenly alchemy to Wu Qianqian. Wu Qianqian sat on the side of the bed, her head slightly lowered, her cheeks flushed red. At this time, there were only the two of them. Wu Qianqian naturally understood what was going to happen. Qianqian. Chun Xiang also sat down and spread the news. Her 2 hands gently held Wu Qianqian's jade face, causing her to slightly raise her head, and looked straight into her beautiful eyes. Yes, Wu Qianqian replied softly, then opened her pink lips slightly, uncontrollably moving her sweet lips closer to him. However, Chun Xiang's speed was even faster than hers. He grabbed onto her slender waist and held onto her fragrant lips, and as the two passionately kissed, they dragged their clothes along as they quickly indulged in the sweetest and happiest moment between a man and woman. Outside the room, Long Shui, LV Chilian and Hua Xiangyue looked at each other. They seemed to be embarrassed, as if they all knew that Chun Xiang wasn't transferring martial arts to them. Long Shui suddenly said, "Do you guys want to peek?" LV Chilian laughed somewhat embarrassedly. "What's there to peek at?" Hua Xiangyue smiled charmingly. The technique transmission is obviously not good to look at, but the technique transmission, the other thing is different. Not only is it beautiful, it's also very happy. LV Chilian's jade face reddened. She never thought that Hua Xiangyue would actually say these things. She did not tell Hua Xiangyue about the matter of her and Chun Xiang's cultivation. But now that Hua Xiangyue had said it like this, she seemed to have realized something.